So now it sounds like the Cleveland Browns are going to all but imprison Shedeur Sanders in the football sense of a very talented rookie quarterback who obviously needs reps.
There was one kind of knucklehead play call where it was 4th and 1 and we went empty. And I'm like, you got a rookie quarterback.
Kevin.
You got a rookie quarterback who hasn't been getting reps, and you're going to put him in empty and 4th and 1 where he's like, if there's ever a time where you got to be able to pre-snap, recognize pressure, slide protection, that know your hot checks, that's when you need to know it.
Right.
You know.
The NFL just pulled off the wildest disappearing act since Houdini. Only this time, it wasn't rabbits. It was fans. Seats that were packed weeks before suddenly turned into empty rows, and it all started the moment Shedeur Sanders got benched. 1 second, the stadium was booming. The next, it looked like a middle school dance nobody wanted to be at. Echoing seats, crushed hype, and nothing but regret in the air. Ratings didn't just dip. They crashed so bad, you'd think they swapped football for a 3-hour tax special on late-night TV. This night was supposed to be magic. Shedeur Sanders, the golden rookie, the quarterback everyone thought would light up primetime and put Cleveland back on the map. Instead, the cameras cut to Joe Flacco jogging out like he'd time-traveled from 2012, and the crowd stared in shock, like, did we just pay Super Bowl prices for a retirement home scrimmage?
Joe Flacco got off his couch and won Comeback Player of the Year in 2023 for the same coach. He knows what Joe Flacco can do. Joe Flacco has been doing this a long time. You can argue his run to a Super Bowl is the greatest run we've seen by a quarterback because of who he had to go through.
I don't know about that.
The preseason, no, I'm saying you can argue it. The preseason, Keith can attest to this. We've been in training camp killing our bodies. You get in a preseason game, even though you want to play, you're not turning it all the way up.
Inside the stadium, the mood flipped in a heartbeat. Hours of tailgating, endless hype, fans screaming about Shedeur's big moment. All of it got stomped out in seconds. People who were buzzing with excitement were suddenly glued to their phones, scrolling in disbelief like teens who just found out TikTok got banned overnight.
The Cleveland Browns listed Shedeur Sanders as inactive today. Inactive? Yo, look, man. At this point, hey, I'm a fan of Shedeur, I'm a fan of Dion, but we just need to stop caring. Because the more people actually trying to tune in to watch Shedeur, the more they ain't gonna play him, and the more they using him for clout and clickbait. They don't want the guy. The owner don't want him. The coach don't want him. The general manager don't want him. They don't want him on the team. Obviously, the NFL do not want Shiloh or Shedeur in the league, but Shedeur is good for money and ratings, or he would.
And the season ticket holders? Furious. Folks who shelled out rent money for those overpriced seats were pointing fingers at anyone in a Browns jacket demanding answers. Let's keep it real. This wasn't just a lineup switch. This was betrayal. Straight up broken trust between a cursed franchise and a fan base that's already been dragged through enough misery. It was like the Browns said. Remember that epic showdown we hyped for weeks? Yeah, scratch that. Here's Joe Flacco, enjoy. And the craziest part? The league built this moment like it was the Super Bowl of rookie debuts. Shedeur versus Burrow, the future of football. ESPN had the graphics locked in, Amazon had special cameras ready, and NFL Network was running panels about how Shedeur was going to shred Cincy's defense like paper. And then, nothing but a letdown that'll haunt Cleveland fans for years. They didn't just promote this game, they force-fed it to the world like it was the second coming of Brady versus Manning.
That they took him out. To me, that was so stupid. Well, I don't care that Snoop Huntley can come in and go 1 of 1 for 7 yards in a 2-minute drill. He's not going to be on the team tomorrow. Why would you not let Shedeur have the 2-minute drill and see if he can do it? Can he shake off? We just talked about how he had poor body language. He looked defeated. Can he shake it off in the moment? Hey, I've had a bad half, but we still, as bad as I've played, we have a chance to go out and win this football game. Can I go out and orchestrate a 2-minute drive to get us into field goal range to win this football game? And instead, you put in the guy who's not going to be on the
Commercials, ads, nonstop hype, all to build up Shedeur Sanders' primetime debut. And then the Browns benched the only dude the entire league actually wanted to see. That's not just a letdown, that's false advertising. It was like hyping Beyoncé at Coachella, only to send out a middle school choir singing "Single Ladies." The second folks realized Joe Flacco was the starter, the numbers fell off a cliff. By halftime, 11 million people still hung around, probably praying the Browns were trolling us and Shedeur would run out of the tunnel last second. By the fourth quarter, that number crashed to 9 million, mostly gamblers too locked into their bets to walk away. That's a 40% ratings collapse in NFL language. And trust me, that's straight up catastrophic. Behind the scenes, it was chaos. Network execs were reportedly scrambling like NASA engineers trying to stop a rocket from blowing up. Advertisers were blowing up phones demanding refunds. Producers were panicking. And somewhere in a boardroom, some billionaire in a suit was probably asking, "Can we just deep fake Shedeur into the game to save face?" That's how desperate it got. And this wasn't just about TV ratings. The domino effect smacked everything tied to the NFL machine. Streaming subscriptions dipped, fantasy football numbers tanked, and even sports betting slowed down. The entire ecosystem cracked because the one guy fans tuned in for was stuck on the sidelines looking like somebody just repoed his car. Fans today don't just want football, they want stars. By the third quarter, you could see it with your own eyes. Whole sections emptied out like a fire drill. Concession stands weren't packed with hungry fans, they were packed with angry ones unloading on any poor worker unlucky enough to be wearing a Browns cap. Even the merch booths turned into scenes of chaos. Just weeks ago, Shedeur jerseys were selling out. Now, they were coming back in droves. One vendor said it felt like Black Friday in reverse. Instead of buying, people were returning. That's how deep the betrayal cut. This wasn't just fans being dramatic. Shedeur himself got blindsided. Insiders say he only found out about being benched an hour before kickoff. 1 hour. After going through warm-ups, locking in mentally, and prepping for the biggest night of his career, he gets hit with the news like a sucker punch. Imagine having your tux on, vows ready, the biggest day of your life lined up, and then someone tells you, "Nah, you're not the groom tonight." You're sitting in the back while your ex walks down the aisle with somebody else. That's the level of humiliation Shedeur felt. Teammates allegedly saw him snap, tossing his helmet, storming toward the locker room before veterans had to step in and calm things down. And the most unforgettable image of the night, not a touchdown, not a highlight, but Shedeur standing on the sideline, helmet off, arms crossed, looking like a man who just got robbed of everything he'd worked for. And what made Joe Flacco suddenly the answer? Stefanski's Confidence Act fooled nobody. The call didn't just tank the game, it ripped the locker room apart. The offense was shook. Wide receivers who'd built weeks of chemistry with Shedeur now had to slow down routes because Flacco couldn't deliver on time. The O-line, already shaky, was suddenly forced to protect a statue with zero mobility. Meanwhile, the defense, already exhausted from carrying this franchise, had to watch their effort go up in smoke while the offense moved slower than dial-up internet. Frustration was boiling everywhere, but the real explosion came at the top. Jimmy Haslam, the owner who handpicked Shedeur, dropped millions on his image, and built entire marketing campaigns around him, was reportedly livid watching national TV viewership collapse in real time. This wasn't just a football decision, it was financial sabotage. And if there's one thing NFL owners hate more than losing games, it's losing money. Stefanski's move wasn't bold, it was reckless. The football version of microwaving a frozen pizza for 2 minutes and wondering why it's still raw in the middle. Fans thought the nightmare ended at the stadium, but in reality, that decision triggered chaos that was about to explode nationwide. The next morning, every sports show turned into an all-out roast session. Former quarterbacks were calling it straight-up malpractice. Media personalities who usually scream for 3 hours about nonsense were suddenly in agreement. Shedeur being benched wasn't strategy, it was sabotage. The memes alone could have powered Cleveland's broken offense. Stephen A's reaction face turned into a viral loop plastered all over Twitter and TikTok. Pat McAfee didn't even need a rant. One sarcastic line from him went viral instantly. And Colin Cowherd? He went off with a full monologue, labeling it the most self-destructive coaching call in modern NFL history. When the national media, who thrive on chaos, all agree you messed up, You know you've basically dropped a nuclear bomb under your own franchise. Then came the gambling disaster. Sportsbooks had set their lines on Shedeur starting, and when he didn't, it was carnage. Thousands of bettors were blowing up customer service lines, demanding answers. Fantasy owners woke up to 0-point quarterbacks in their lineups and were furious. Some even joked about suing the Browns for emotional damages. Prop bets got torched, parlays went up in flames, and entire fantasy seasons collapsed overnight. This wasn't just a bad call, it was an economic earthquake. And here's the wildest twist. The NFL itself was neck-deep in the hype. They'd been parading Shedeur as one of the league's future faces. Whole promotional campaigns were built around him. Broadcast partners dropped millions on exclusive camera angles, highlight reels, pre-game packages, all centered on Shedeur. And then, on the big night, he never even stepped on the field. Picture this. You spend millions marketing a blockbuster movie, teasing the star in every trailer, and then when the film hits theaters, that star never shows up. All you get is the stunt double stumbling through the script. That's exactly what the NFL sold fans, and the backlash was nothing short of explosive. The cracks weren't just showing in the locker room, they exploded all over social media. Younger players were liking posts demanding Shedeur start. Others were resharing memes clowning Stefanski's call. Even the vets who tried to keep it classy couldn't hide their frustration. It was crystal clear. This wasn't just a divided locker room, it was a collapsing one. Ownership was fuming. Jimmy Haslam, the man who personally pushed for drafting Shedeur, had to sit there and watch his billion-dollar house of cards tumble in real time. The NFL had mapped out a business plan around Shedeur's arrival. More ticket sales, booming merch revenue, better ratings. Stefanski's one decision set all of that on fire in a single night. Marketing money wasted, sponsorships on the edge, season ticket renewals dropping like flies. One insider even claimed Haslam was pacing like a man watching his stock portfolio crash in front of him. And honestly, that's exactly what was happening. It's one thing to lose a game. It's another thing to sabotage the golden goose. Owners don't fire coaches for dropping a few wins, but when you torch revenue streams, that's career suicide. Every empty seat in the stadium, every canceled Prime subscription, every sponsor suddenly side-eyeing the Browns, all of it turned Stefanski's seat into a frying pan sizzling in the oven. And here's the NFL reality. Nothing makes billionaires angrier than watching money evaporate because of one man's ego. Meanwhile, Shedeur, silent. No interviews, no IG lives, no tweets, just quiet. And in today's league, that silence is louder than 1,000 words. His camp strategically leaked just enough. He was blindsided, humiliated, maybe even plotting an exit if things didn't flip quick. Then Shedeur Sanders poured gasoline on the fire with cryptic posts about knowing your worth and not staying where you're not wanted. Subtle? Maybe. Effective? Absolutely. The whispers turned into roars. Suddenly, this wasn't just a benching. It was a full-on league-wide storyline. Rival teams started circling like sharks, wondering if Cleveland's dysfunction could be their jackpot. Agents started whispering about contract clauses to protect young quarterbacks from being sabotaged by insecure coaches. Even the NFLPA poked its nose in, questioning whether Stefanski's move broke an unspoken code about competitive integrity. By midweek, the numbers painted the ugliest picture. Merch sales tanked. Season ticket renewal calls weren't renewals, they were cancellations. Corporate sponsors started panicking about their logos being tied to a franchise drowning in bad press. Cleveland wasn't just losing football games anymore. They were bleeding money everywhere. Shedeur wasn't just a quarterback. He was the marketing engine, the ratings magnet, the engagement factory. Benching him was like shutting down the city's only power plant, and then acting shocked when the lights went out. Stefanski thought he was flexing authority, proving he could make the tough calls. Instead, he exposed just how flimsy his grip really was. In today's NFL, if a coach doesn't understand that football is also entertainment, he's a dinosaur, and Cleveland just got hit with the meteor. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.